I just feel like that shouldn't be as pushed. I guess it's more pushed like for my coaches and stuff. Like when you play for them, like you're just an athlete, you know what I mean? And then like when you take like theater or try to invest time in other things, it's like, why are you doing that? You're good at this. You know what I mean? So I wish more kids would like experiment, you know what I mean? Because I wish I would have heard for sure.
Welcome to Story Power, a new bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we're passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. And we'll give a few recommendations to you, our listeners. Beware, possible spoilers ahead. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast during the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. And as all good stories do, the world got even crazier. But as Neil Gaiman says, fairy tales are more than true not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. Since I believe that stories have the power to show us the way and give us courage to keep going, I wanted to see if that was true for my guests as well. You're listening to episode number 7. My guest today is David Featherston. He is a former student of mine, and I think you and I met, David, when you took Acting 1. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh, wow. How long ago was that?
Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, it could be.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So the reason I asked you on the show, part of the reason why, is because you have been in not just the acting classes, but you took theater workshop last year. You were in 12th night. So you had said to me when you took dramatic structure that you had gotten chosen to be on a basketball team at a different college. And when you showed up in my dramatic structure class, I was like, David, what are you doing here? And you said, well, basketball wasn't fun. And then you said that you were really hooked on theater. So I wanted to know more about that story about the basketball thing, because, it's kind of hard to get chosen for a basketball team, I would think.
The thing with that is I got a scholarship to go play at Tohono O'odham. And the whole thing with that is I went to a workout and they offered me on the spot. And I think that was over the summer. And I had went over there and I was working out, doing the whole thing. And the whole time I was like, this really isn't me. I mean, my whole life I've been an athlete, been into sports. It's just something that I was naturally good at, like football. It was natural. Volleyball, that wasn't as natural, but I was athletic enough to play it. And basketball was the one that, I could just do.
Yeah.
And throughout high school, it was pretty fun, but it was always way more of a job than I had fun playing it, I guess you could say. A thing about that college is that they actually didn't even have like an acting or theater program. So when I was out there the whole time, I was kind of thinking about, wow, I'm out here. Yeah, I'm going to school for free and whatnot, but I'm not having fun with it. I'm not doing something I want to do, and I'm not learning about what I want to learn about, which is theater. That's what I want to do. And so then I was like, a few weeks into it, I talked to my parents and stuff, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this. I talked to my coach, and I was like, Coach, I thank you for the opportunity, but I had quite literally told him that acting is what I want to do. And I felt the right move for me was to stay at Cochise, work with you and work with Dave. And I just don't think that the basketball route was the good route for me as far as my happiness goes. Right. And as soon as I came back, dramatic structure, I just instantly, I knew that I had made the right decision, like especially going into 12th night and all that. And then it was just validation that theater was the right move.
Yeah. We both are so impressed with how you're so vulnerable with the characters. I don't mean that you cry a lot or anything, but you're so open to the characters and to what they're thinking and feeling. And when you did the scene with Bridget,
Massive is the massive in the hand, Moorhen or something like that.
Yeah, the Moorhen, right? And she played the Moorhen. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you blew us away, you two, but Bridget too. With that scene, it was so fantastic. And I remember also you blew us away when you did your monologue. I don't remember
Language Archive.
Yes, and Dave had the brilliant idea to have Melissa just stand there and listen to you.
Oh yeah, that was.
And now you guys, well, you both did such a great. She didn't have to say anything because it was a monologue. It was your monologue, but the way she reacted to you because of what you said in that monologue was so fantastic. And so I was really happy when you came back. And I think it takes a lot of courage to say, oh, this is not the path for me. And to actually stop the process, go, I have to go this way, not this way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And another thing with that, too, is like in high school, I wish I would have done it earlier because I actually did take an acting class in high school, but I just never, I took one class. I did like it. I liked it a whole lot, but, I was an athlete and that was like my identity throughout high school. And, it's kind of like that stigma, you know what I mean? Like I took the second class and I dropped the second class because I was like, nah, man, this isn't me. I'm a basketball player. I'm a football player. That's what I am. I just feel like that shouldn't be as pushed. I guess it's more pushed like for my coaches and stuff, like you're just an athlete, you know what I mean? And then like when you take like theater or try to invest time in other things, it's like, why are you doing that? You're good at this. I wish more kids would like experiment, you know what I mean? Because I wish I would have heard.
Yeah, because I think that's part of being young. I tell my college students that now too, that, this is the time for you to try stuff out and see if it fits for you. It's not, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life right now. I didn't figure out that I wanted to be a writer until I was 53 years old. So, you're always going to have opportunities to try something new throughout your whole entire life. I can see why coaches say that because it's such a huge commitment to be on a team. In our area, you have to travel great distances to get to the games and stuff.
Yeah.
But something that you said about that made me think, a lot of athletes have transferred from being an athlete to acting. I think the reason why some of them are really successful is because they both take huge commitments. It takes a huge commitment to be an athlete, takes a huge commitment to be an actor.
Oh yeah, the commitment to be an actor is a lot more intensive, especially when we're doing 12th night. I just like to have to go to the auditions and learn your script and then, get into the feel of the character. It is, I would say in its own way, it is just as hard as, playing a sport commitment wise, you know what I mean? Like there's so much that just goes into it. It's awesome. That's all I can say. It's awesome. It's fun.
So how did you get hooked on stories? Because this is Story Power is the name of my podcast. So I like to talk to people about what stories they love and how did they get hooked on them. And so do you want to tell a little bit about that?
I think what really got me hooked on stories is just movies. As a kid, I've always loved movies. I've loved everything about acting. I've loved the storytelling, how plots play out, all that. And I feel like one of the bigger, I don't know if this is ironic, that I'm saying this, but I think one of the biggest role models in that area was like Will Smith and stuff, and the way that he portrayed the stories that he was telling, like his characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like he had a big part to play in why I like the stuff I like today.
Well, yeah, that's right. Because he has sort of that same kind of quality that I think you do. You believe he's that character. And I always felt that about you. It was like, oh, I believe that he's that character. And not everybody has that ability. Even actors that are considered famous actors don't have the ability to make us feel that they are that character. Yeah. So what are some of your favorite Will Smith movies?
Well, I'll say my favorite ones are probably Hitch and 7 Pounds for sure.
Oh, you know what? I've never seen either of those. I saw part of 7 Pounds and it was like, oh, wow, that looks like a fantastic.
It is a great movie. I highly recommend it. And another reason why I liked Will Smith too is because, like you said, like, I guess how you said about me, like my vulnerability to play different characters and I'm just open to it. I see that same thing in him, like where he can play like the funniest role, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type, you know, and then he plays something so serious like 7 Pounds and you just see him turn into two completely different people. And that just fascinates me. I mean, to be able to just emulate a character so much that you just believe like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the one that where he's the only one by himself. Oh, and
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. Yes, I think that's actually the name of the story that it's based on. He's so good in that one too.
Yeah, he's great in that movie. That movie is.
Yeah, and he's almost all by himself almost the whole entire time.
Yeah,
it's like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Tom Hanks is by himself almost the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard, I think.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So, yeah, I like Will Smith, too. He's one of my favorites, too. Will Smith had several every summer for like 4 or 5 summers. He had big blockbuster movies that came out that were really huge moneymakers. Independence Day was one of them.
I Robot, stuff like that. Yeah,
yes. Oh, I Robot. I like that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's straight classic hits right there.
It's interesting because he does like sci-fi, but he also does these other. Because I've never seen this one, but the one where he plays the guy who has his son and he loses everything and he goes for an internship at one of the stockbroker firms.
Oh yeah. Pursuit of Happiness, I'm pretty sure it's called.
Pursuit of Happiness. Yes, I wish I could. My brain isn't working very well today. Yes, that one. And he's serious in that one. He's serious.
Yes. Will Smith just has a way about himself. He just like, when he becomes a character, like he commits and you believe it the whole way. Like you don't, like you never, like for me personally, like I never question it. You know what I mean? Like I'll watch movies and then I'll see certain people act and stuff. I'm like, was that really like the right move? You know, but with Will Smith, like you don't really get that question. You know what I mean? Like he just, you know, he's just that guy. And that's, I don't know, acting wise, I've always wanted to be that guy too.
Yeah. Well, I think that you can learn a lot about acting from watching theater and watching movies, because then because I analyze why the characters are doing what they're doing, and then I also learned how to analyze their facial expressions, their body language, because sometimes the character's body language is supposed to be in opposition to what they're saying, and that's a difficult thing for an actor to do sometimes, is to have this body language and facial expressions that don't go with what they're trying to convince the other people in the movie about or the play about. Yeah. Do you have any other favorites besides Will Smith?
Oh, I have a lot. I like Mark Wahlberg too.
Oh,
I really like him. Mark Wahlberg and like Will Smith are just like the two dudes that just I envy. I just envy them.
Yeah, and I mean, he does. Mark Wahlberg's another one that does these crazy family, silly movies, and then really intense movies. Do you have a special, a kind of genre that you like? Like, do you like action movies? Do you like dramas? Do you like comedies? Or you kind of, do you like a lot of different?
Believe it or not, I'm like a total sap for drama, like romantic type movies are like my thing. Because I've always viewed myself as like a hopeless romantic. So like every movie I see, I'm like, man, I feel for you, you know, stuff like that. I love romantic movies. I don't know, it's something about them that's just like, and I think that's why I really like the language archive too.
Oh,
Is because I
yeah.
could connect with it in that way, you
Mhm.
know. Because you know he doesn't want his girl to leave and all this stuff, and then it's just
Yeah.
stuff like that. I love, just
Yeah.
love it.
Well, and I am not, especially in books, I'll say this. I am not a
Mhm.
big romance novel fan. I think they have changed a lot since I first started reading them. When I first started reading them, they were all pretty much the same. And after about 10 of them, I said, oh my gosh, I got to stop reading these. And rom-coms, I'm not a super huge fan of either if they are kind of cookie cutter, but there are a bunch now that have these little twists and turns and in unexpected ways. And I'm sort of picky. I'm sort of picky on what I watch
Yeah.
in terms of that. If I see a trailer and I think it looks interesting, I might go check out Internet Movie Database and find out more about that movie to see if I really want to go watch it. And
Hmm.
that's for any genre, any type of movie. Yeah. So how often do you go to the movies?
Before the whole COVID epidemic, I try to shoot at least once a month. When I was in Georgia, I would go about every week. There's something different about, you know, watching the movie on TV or something for the first time, but watching it in the movie theater, that's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a way better experience to me, especially the IMAX theaters. Who they
Oh,
just
yeah. I'm going to talk about something that happened way long time ago. In 1996, my husband and I took a trip around the world, and one of the places we stopped was in Japan because my sister and her family were living there at the time. They were living in Tokyo. And so we went with a couple of their friends to go see the first Mission Impossible movie. And the Japanese theaters were high-rise buildings, and each floor was a different theater. And they sat about, probably 1,000 people or maybe more. And we got there and we had to sit like in the second row. So it was like we were looking up people's noses and seeing their nose hair and, stuff like that. And, but watching a movie with almost a whole entire Japanese audience, they didn't get a lot of, I don't know if you've ever seen the first Mission Impossible movie, but Emilio Estevez makes this joke, and it was the six of us laughing. Nobody else was laughing at the joke. So it was really weird. But yeah, watching a movie on the big screen is different than watching it at home. But movies like the Star Wars movies or certain action pictures, you just really
oh
need
yeah, like
to see them.
Marvel movies, Avengers, and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
You have to see them on the big screen. So have you been watching, since we've been kind of stuck at home, have you been watching anything on television, like maybe series? Have you discovered any new series?
Yeah, I actually watch two Netflix. Netflix is like what I watch. I don't really watch like cable and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
two Netflix shows that I just watched were I forgot the name of one, but the other one is Love Is Blind. That one I really liked. That one I really
Ooh.
liked. Yeah, it's like a So you ever know what Married at First Sight is? You ever heard of that show?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I've never watched it, but
So,
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I've seen
it's
it
kind
listed
of
on the guide.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of like that. So it's like there's two groups, guys and girls, and they go on like a dating roulette type thing. But the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing is that they go into these date rooms, but they can't see each other. So the whole connection is personality based. and you have about, I think it's like a week or a couple weeks. Like this is all supposed to be done within like a month. Like you meet and get married like within a month or two.
Oh.
And yeah, it's crazy. So they meet completely based off personality. And then, you know, obviously the guys like propose to the girls, but without ever seeing them. And then after they propose, then they see them for the first time. And then that's where the whole Love is Blind thing is like, will you stay with this person based off personality, or does looks really have like a role in, you know, how you choose somebody who you marry and stuff like that? Like, is it that big of a thing, or is personality good enough, you know?
That's an interesting premise.
Yeah, it's really good. And you see like how, I guess you could say how shallow people can be, because there's some good people on that show that just, you know, things just don't end happily because of how they look. I guess like the personality is there, but maybe they're a little bit too short or a little bit too skinny, or, you know, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you can't really say anything against them, because I feel like most people do make that connection based off looks rather than personality. I think it's like looks first and personality later, you know?
Yeah.
So I think today's like world is as far as that.
And so do you ever root for certain people that you are worried that maybe they won't get chosen?
Oh, of course. I always root for the people. I'm like, man, y'all need to stay together. Like, you know, like the whole time, like their relationship is rocky turvy, but it's like, man, y'all really meant for each other. Like, I'm really rooting for y'all right now. Like, call me a sap or a simp for that stuff, but man.
That's interesting. I never would have thought that you would be into rom-coms. So I'm going to go back to dramatic structure. Were you there when we watched Sliding Doors? Because I knew you had to be gone for some of the classes.
I was there for this. I think the second half of it. That's the one where it's like kind of confusing. Like if you don't know how it goes, right?
There were two time periods, and the same characters are in two different time periods. And the reason it's called Sliding Doors is because Gwyneth Paltrow's character goes down one timeline or the other, depending on whether or not she got on the train. So as the doors slide shut, if she's outside the train, she goes down one timeline, and if she's inside the train, she goes down another timeline. And they are parallel timelines until a certain time in the story, which you saw. And it's all about she's living with this guy he's not a good guy. But she doesn't discover it in one timeline until much later. In the other timeline, she comes home and he's in bed with this other woman. So early on. So, and then she meets somebody else who's really great. And they end up together in the end. It actually, when the one timeline goes away and she is left at the end of the other timeline, they meet again. And she says something that makes him go, "What?"
Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like, oh, he's interested right away in her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they have the whole little thing about she's messing around with her earring and it falls down. And that happens in both timelines. And he picks it up and hands it to her. But that's how he meets her, is helping her with her earring in both timelines. Yeah. I was so surprised because I chose that one for the first time. And I thought, it's a rom-com. I don't know. Everybody in the class was so involved in that movie and wanted the timeline where she met the really great guy to be the one that continued on. And I was like, I am so surprised everybody's so into this movie, because it's light, but it does have that whole theme of standing up for yourself. And she's trying to figure out what she's supposed to be doing in life, which you kind of already have experienced in your own life. So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that was a good movie. Even though I was immersed in it too, even though I only saw the second half and I had no clue what was going on. I was still like, what's happening? Like, it's actually really interesting.
You'll have to go find it someplace, see if Netflix has it, and and rent it and watch the whole thing because it's very interesting. The reason I chose it was because of that parallel structure, and watching her character develop over the two timelines.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and eventually she gets to the same place in both timelines, but one of them she just does it quicker than the other one. So, have you seen any movies recently that just you were hooked on that you want to see? Because I tend to be one of those that I see a movie and I love it and I want to watch it again immediately.
Recently, there's this really good movie on Netflix, and oh man, I can't remember the names of the movie it was, but I guess I'll kind of give you the summary of it. It's this girl, and I think her sister had just died in a car accident. And yeah, the whole time through the story, there's this guy, and I guess he's kind of like the class clown. Like nobody takes him serious. You know what I mean? And he finds an interest in the girl. And this whole time, this girl is just trying to get through that mourning process, but she just kind of can't. And she's like stuck in her little shell, like she's scared and all that. Yeah. And the guy's like the class clown, but nobody truly understands who he is and stuff. And like for most of the movie, it's like him trying to make her kind of interested, and he's trying to make her go out and do things and stuff like this. But the whole time he's fighting like his own personal issues. And you don't really see that to the end. And, you know, spoiler alert, they like fall in love and he ends up killing himself.
Oh, no.
I gotta get the movie. I'll send you the movie name, but.
Oh, is it a made for Netflix movie?
Yeah, it's a Netflix original. It is a Netflix original.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like, personally, I don't like tear up, I guess you could say, at movies. I'm saying this as a man. It kind of got me a little bit in it. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe, you know,
when he
like
does,
I might got a little half tear shed. You know what I'm saying? A little half tear.
Yeah,
it's really good though.
Oh yeah, why does he kill himself?
It's just this feeling like he just always has this feeling like he's not good enough, and then everybody calls him like weird and stuff, and like the world would be like better off without him type stuff. And like he acts like it doesn't get to him, but it really does. He has like a mental issue.
So he's bipolar or something.
Yeah, he's like bipolar. Yeah. So he shows her like one side, but on the other end, like he's like a completely different person, like just a depressed person. And everybody thinks that he acts the way he does, like in school stuff, just because, you know, he's stupid, like he's just trying to be the funny dude or whatever. But yeah, and his like living situation isn't the greatest either. Like with his parents and stuff, like his sister kind of is his mother, you know, like, yeah, it's a sad one. It's a sad one.
So is this what it is about it that you got out of it? That we can't always really depend on what people are showing us. There's probably a whole lot more going on underneath.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is that why you like acting too?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think with that too is like, that's why I never really, you know, judge people or something like that. Like, especially like going back to being an athlete and stuff, jocks are jerks, and that's just a fact. And a lot of things they like to do is, you know, make fun of people because of their appearance or stuff that they do. And I've never been one to really do that, just because I've always had that same thought, like you're talking about, like you only see the surface. You don't know what's deeper than that, what they're going through, you know, and then just a whole lot that plays into that. And the same thing with acting, like when I played Antonio, and everybody thought I kind of had like this, you know, thing for Sebastian, I guess, but it was a way deeper connection, you know, than everybody had thought it was. And my intentions were like true. And only like I really knew that as playing the character, you know what I mean? So I kind of had to portray that in a way, but everybody else didn't get that till the end, you know?
Right. Yeah, because it's in 12th Night, we're talking about 12th Night. It could be that Antonio is actually in love with Sebastian, or it could just be that he is just this true and loyal friend. And we don't understand that. I won't say we don't understand it, but it's not as thought about nowadays that you could just love your friend because, a lot of people like to make fun. Instead of there was some sort of connection there and he just wanted to be his true and loyal friend. Yeah.
Like I just want the best for him, you know what I mean? That's what it was. But from the first couple of scenes that I played, like you would think, like, yeah, I was, I might have been gay or something, and I had a thing for him like that. But really, I just, I loved him as a friend, just wanted the best for him. And that's what I like about acting too, because you can start, like I've watched a little bit of theater too, like Othello and stuff like that. And your character can start like one way, and then, the audience could have their perception of you in the beginning. And then by the end, like, it's just like a whole different thing. Like, you're just like your true character comes out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just what I think acting is just one of the many ways. It's just great in that way.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. Barry and I watched, my husband, Barry. It's Idris Elba and Kate Winslet, and it's called The Mountain Between Us. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I have not seen that movie.
You might want to go see it. It's based on a novel. They're trying to get home from each one has been on a business trip of some sort. Idris Elba plays a doctor, so he was at a medical conference, I think. And Kate Winslet's character is a photojournalist. And they're trying to get back to New York, I think. She's going to get married. He has a surgery scheduled and he needs to get home. So they're trying to get home, but they're stuck in the Denver airport, and there's a snowstorm or something. And so they go and find this guy who has a small plane, and they charter the plane so that they can hopefully beat the storm that's coming and get to a place where they can fly back to New York. Well, the guy who is the pilot, played by Beau Bridges, has a stroke while they're in the air. And so they crash on top of a mountain. And they have to try to get down. He dies, unfortunately. But she has a broken leg, so Idris Elba's character has to fix her leg. And then they have to try and get down off the mountain because it's winter. And more storms are going to come. And plus, they don't have enough food. They have water, of course, because they have all this snow around them, but they don't have any food. So the pilot's dog goes with them, and it takes them like 3 or 4 weeks to get down the mountain to a logging camp. And as they face all these difficulties, they fall in love with each other, but she's supposed to be getting married. So he's British. His wife was American. That's why he came to the United States. So once they get home, they've gone through this life-wrenching situation, and they've had to depend on each other for survival. And so when they separate, you can kind of tell it's half of them is missing. And she decides not to marry the guy because she just can't resume the life she had before. And he goes back to England and decides not to be a surgeon anymore. He just works in family practice or something. And then she keeps trying to call him. And finally, she sends him the photographs that she took of him. And she said, nobody else will understand these photographs but you. So he contacts her and goes to New York, and they finally get back together. But it's like, at first you're thinking that they're not going to get back together, and then finally they do. So it's a kind of a story that you might enjoy.
Oh, yeah. I was literally I felt like I was like listening to like an audio version of it when you were there. I was actually so interested right now when you were talking about it. I definitely need to watch that.
I like both Kate Winslet and Idris Elba. He plays so many interesting characters, different characters.
Very underrated. He's very underrated.
I think so too. I've seen him in a lot. He plays the bad guy in one of the Star Treks, one of the new Star Trek. And then he's Heimdall in Thor, on the Thor movies.
Yeah, Thor,
But
yeah.
he's done a bunch of other stuff too. Like Barry and I saw him in a movie that's based on a Stephen King novel called Dark Tower the other
Oh, I
day.
watched that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've never read the book. It's a series of books that Stephen King has written. The movie got panned, but I thought it was quite interesting. His character was very interesting, especially since sometimes this is one thing that I don't like about movies is they make the black guys or the Hispanic guys or the Asian guys the bad guys instead of the white guy. Well, in this case, Matthew McConaughey is the bad guy and Idris Elba is the good guy. And it was like, yay! I'm so glad because I really like Idris Elba. So, I like Matthew McConaughey too, but but yeah, he played a really good bad guy. So I don't know. I like a lot of different genres of movies. Do you watch sci-fi ever?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And talking about Matthew McConaughey, he was the one who was in the Interstellar, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah. If it's not like a rom-com, sci-fi is the way to go. For sure. Especially Interstellar. Oh my gosh, that movie makes me think. Wow.
Yes, Jessica Chastain that plays his daughter, she's really good too. Everybody in that movie is good. And I'm one of those people that I love movies that make you have to watch it more than once before you kind of start getting what's going on. And that's one of those movies. Cloud Atlas is another one.
Did you watch that one, like, I guess it's not really like scary. I guess it's kind of a scary movie. Us,
I've never
the
watched
Jordan Peele movie.
Oh, right. Jordan Peele. Oh, no. And I've never seen, what's the first one that he did?
Get Out, right? Is it Get Out?
Get Out. Right. Yeah. I am, like I told Melissa, I am not a big horror movie fan. Us, tell me about it.
Thriller. Us? So
I like psychological thrillers too. I heard you say that. I like those too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what Get Out and like Us is really.
Really more a psychological thriller? Okay.
Yeah, Us wasn't really scary, but it made you think. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some parts where it's like, okay, that's kind of creepy, but it wasn't like any jump scare type things. But it definitely was a little eerie, and like it made you think. I had to watch it. I watched the movie like 3 times before like I got everything, because it's like, I guess the basis of the movie is that there's people, and then their opposites live like underground, kind of. It's weird.
Ooh.
And yeah, and then the people down there, they're like a messed up version of the people above ground, if that makes sense.
Oh.
So like say me and you were listening to music, right? And then we're listening to music like on beat, stuff like that, like chilling. The people down there, they would listen to the music, but they would be offbeat. So like it's a bunch of things. And like the opening scene is the families in the car, the African American families in the car, and they listen to I Got Five on it. And like the first thing you see is that she's offbeat. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and it's funny because me and my friends were like kind of making fun of her, like, dude, what the heck is, like, how are you offbeat in the movie? Like, that makes no sense. They really didn't think this through. And it's funny because the whole time she was one of the people from down there, but she got switched out as a kid. It's just,
is
I
that
could try to explain it
Lupita
to you,
Nyong'o plays that part? Is that the part?
Yeah. I could try and explain it to you, but it would take me like 3 days to even try to.
Oh my gosh,
get close. It's
David,
good.
that sounds like the very first version of it, I think, was in the 1950s, but it's called The Body Snatchers. Have you ever heard of that movie, The Body Snatchers?
I've heard of it. I think that's like kind of what it's like based on a little bit. I could be wrong, but yeah, no, I think it's kind of like that. They basically, the clones come up and they're killing like all the people and stuff, and they want to be the main ones now, like the main people.
Because I have to be really careful with horror movies. I was telling Melissa, when I was a kid, my brother and I went to see Dracula, and it was by the Hammer production company in England. And now if you watch those Hammer films, they're really laughable, but I had nightmares after that.
Personally, I don't think it's that scary. Like
Mm-hmm.
us really wasn't that scary. Get Out is probably the one that's way more
Really
scary than
scary.
us is. Yeah, but Get Out's like really it's just a dark movie all around, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It has a few comical moments for sure, but it's just like both of them, they're just psychological thrills. They just really make you think. And Us, for sure, you have to watch Us. If you watch Us one time, then you're going to be a little bit confused. So you have to at least watch it twice to kind of get the whole thing. And Get Out, you should be able to get it like on the first watch, I'll say. But it's kind of funny that Jordan Peele is the one who wrote, both these movies and stuff. And I just would have never expected, because I watch Key and Peele all the time, like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I watch it all the time. And then when I saw the trailer and then I saw who is like directing and like wrote it, and I was like, what the heck? I was like, where did this come from? This is like the complete opposite spectrum of what you do. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think that John Krasinski really surprised everyone with
Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you see him just talking to people, he's really funny. And I guess I never watched the show, The Office, but I guess he was really funny in The Office.
Oh, yeah, he was really.
And then Barry and I have watched on Amazon Jack Ryan, because we really like all of those Jack Ryan books and movies, like Hunt for Red October, I think was the very first one that Clancy did. So we've seen a lot of those. So we said, well, let's try this Jack Ryan series. And he's very serious in that. But when he did A Quiet Place, I remember people saying, wow, he did a good job. And I think that a lot of those people were thinking, he's just this funny guy, So Jordan Peele was sort of the same thing. He got this, wow, he did a really great job with Get Out. And that sort of started a whole new part of his career.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like, how do you say his name? The guy from The Quiet Place? How do you say his name? I don't mess up his name.
John Krasinski. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's what, when I watched it, when I had seen the trailer, I saw him, and then I was like, okay, this guy does not look like the dude from The Office at all.
I know.
And I guess that just kind of shows the versatility, theater and acting. Like, you really never know what actors are capable of, because in the movie, like, oh my gosh, especially Quiet Place, that was such a good movie. He killed it. There's nothing else I could say besides he just really killed it. And like, I wanted to see him in more stuff like that, Stuff like The Office was cool, but stuff like that, whew.
You might enjoy seeing the 2 seasons of Jack Ryan. One of the things I really liked about especially the first season was that he works for the CIA, and they send him out. The whole setup is that there are these Middle Eastern guys that are terrorists. Well, the cool thing about the whole season is you see why these guys became terrorists. The very first thing you see in the show is these 2 kids. They're standing on the roof of their house, and missiles are getting aimed at their town. They survive, but their whole family is killed. It's a U.S. attack. And I can't remember exactly. It might have been in a war. I don't remember. And so, of course, they want to get back at the U.S. for this. So they form their own terrorist organization. And it shows how desire for revenge and stuff changes the older brother, and the younger brother is going along for the ride because it's his older brother. But in the end, his older brother wants him to do something, and he just can't do it. He just can't do what it's because it's going to kill a bunch of people. But I mean, it makes it sympathetic. It makes the bad guys sympathetic, because you kind of understand why they became the way they did. It's so interesting. And the second is sort of like that again, where you get to see both sides of the issue. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen in season 3.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd be interested in watching. Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, this has been really fun, and I want to know if there's something that you want to recommend to our listeners that they go check out. Something that we've talked about or something that we haven't talked about.
Well, something that we talked about, I guess I'll say two movies that if you haven't watched it, I really recommend you watch them. One is 7 Pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is that movie Us. If you have not watched those, 7 Pounds will put you through emotions you didn't even know you had. And Us will make you use parts of the brain you didn't even know you had. They're completely different movies, but they're both like, I feel like they both show like really good, what's the word? I don't know. I'm thinking too much. Just watch them. That's all I gotta say. It's Us and 7 Pounds. Us and 7 Pounds. Y'all need to watch it. Oh, and one more movie suggestion I had. I just thought about right now.
Okay, what?
Robin Williams, The Bicentennial Man, I think it's called.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's an old movie. Well, Robin Williams he was so hilariously funny, but he played some really great serious character.
Yeah, that's a really good, like, from start to finish. See, a lot of people or like a lot of reviews I've kind of seen on the movie, they say like the movie's like not that good or not up to par, but I think it's a great movie, honestly. I think it's worth the watch.
Well,
from start to end. It's so good.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about having so many different genres and so many different actors, and because the things that I'm going to like, you might not like.
I like how you brought up The Sixth Sense too, because those movies are good as well.
M. Night Shyamalan, yeah. The Sixth Sense, he gives you so many clues, but the way he shoots it, you don't really get it until the end, which I love. I love that because a lot of times it's hard to be surprised. And I like Bruce Willis a lot.
Oh, who doesn't?
Yeah. My husband, when we went to visit his mom and dad last Christmas, they said, "Oh, we have all these Christmas movies to watch, but we already watched Die Hard, and they're in their 80s." Okay. So Ben and I were just laughing because they thought Die Hard was a Christmas movie. And so they bought him Die Hard, this like 25th anniversary Die Hard for his birthday. And when he opened it, we just laughed because the cover of it has all this counted cross stitch looking kind of stuff on the outside, which is totally opposite to the movie.
It's funny because it's like at this point, Die Hard pretty much is a Christmas movie, Like,
oh. Well, we are a big fan of Turner Classic Movies. And Ben Mankiewicz said, okay. So, because he was talking to this guy about Christmas movies last Christmas.
Yeah.
And he had written a book about Christmas movies, which I wish I could remember the author's name and the name of the book. But he said, okay, once and for all, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And the guy goes, yes, because it has this element and this element and this element that all Christmas movies have. And Ben Mankiewicz went, yes.
That was probably one of the like biggest like discussions of whether or not that's a Christmas movie.
I know, really.
Because I always had the argument with family members, like, they're like, okay, let's watch some Christmas movies. I'm like, okay, let's watch Die Hard. And they're like, that is not a Christmas movie. And I was like, well, it kind of is.
Well, yeah. And one of the things I remember that the author said was it has a dysfunctional family that comes together and then they have to deal with some problems and they kind of get it all worked out in the end. A lot of Christmas movies have those elements. And even movies like It's a Wonderful Life has that element, to it.
When I have kids, they will grow up knowing that Die Hard is Christmas. That will be a December 25th movie we will watch.
Yes. Good for you. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Because families come and Christmas movies come in all different kinds of packages. Man, it has been so much fun talking to you. I'm glad that we got to have this conversation because I get to know you a little better. I may have to call on you again. So thank you for being my guest.
Oh, for sure. Anytime, anytime.
I hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage Woman Chronicles, at sagewoman.life. You can leave comments there, and remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.